Hello and welcome to BYJU'S Exam Prep IAS. I welcome you all to today's daily quiz video on our YouTube channel. Before we begin the quiz, an important reminder. This is this week's knowledge series schedule. As you know, every single day at 10 a.m. and at 3 p.m. we have a live class on our YouTube channel on some of the most important and relevant topics from your preparation. This week's schedule is on the screen. As you can see, very important topics will be discussed, such as the collegium system, UN reforms, money laundering, citizen starter, the IUCN, American Revolution, so on and so forth. So don't forget to join in for all of these classes at 10 a.m. and at 3 p.m. right here on the YouTube channel. Now let's begin the daily quiz for today. The question number 1 is on your screen. Consider the following statements with regards to the foreign trips of civil servants and political officials in India. Number 1. The Cabinet Secretary and the Ministry of External Affairs should be kept informed of proposed foreign visits, only official and not private, of the Chief Ministers and Ministers of State Governments or Union Territories. Second, since 2016, the applications can be made for e-political clearance on the portal epolclearance.gov.in. Third, for union ministers, after getting political clearance from the Ministry of External Affairs, additional clearance is needed from the Prime Minister, whether the trip is official or personal. Which of these given statements is or are correct? The correct answer here would be B. 2 and 3 are correct. The first statement is wrong because whether be it an official visit or a private visit, in both these cases, the Chief Minister or the Ministers at the state government or UT levels would have to seek clearance from the Cabinet Secretariat and the Ministry of External Affairs. The other two statements here are absolutely correct. The reason why this issue is in the news and we are discussing it today is because the Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal apparently had to go on a trip to Singapore, where he was invited to attend the World Cities Summit scheduled between July 31st and August 3rd. The reason why this has been in the news is because the central government has still not given the clearance, and that is why the Delhi Chief Minister is saying that the visit has been delayed and the clearances have been delayed, and he obviously is not happy with it. In October 2019, the centre had not given him approval to attend another conference abroad, which he eventually had to address via video conferencing. This article in the Indian Express today gives you details about such clearance procedures, whether be it at the state government level or at the centre government level. This article also gives you multiple examples of when the visits of state government officials, specifically including the chief ministers, have been denied in the past. For example, it says that under the Congress government, the External Affairs Ministry had denied political clearance to trips by chief ministers of Assam to US and Israel, and also to chief ministers of Jharkhand to visit Thailand. So this is not a new occurrence that the chief minister or some other minister has been denied or delayed such a clearance. Next, question number 2. Consider the following statements with regard to Indian president's elections. Number 1. The rule for securing 50 proposals and seconders was implemented by Election Commission of India in 1974. Second, an elector cannot propose or second the nomination of more than one candidate. Third, the president's election is held in accordance with the system of proportional representation by means of a single transferable vote, and the voting is by open ballot. Which of these given statements is or are correct? Now, as you know, yesterday only we had the election for India's next president, and the counting of the votes will be done in just a few days. With respect to that, if you look at these three statements, first and the second statements are correct. The third statement is wrong because the voting is actually done by a secret ballot and not an open ballot. The correct answer thus would be A. In fact, the opposition candidate, that is Mr. Yashwant Sinha, had even appealed to the voters, to the electors, saying that it is a secret ballot. So even if you belong to the BJP or other parties, you can still vote for me. However, as per many news stories, it is almost certain that the next president of India will be Srimati Draupadi Murmu. The elections are over now and the votes will be counted on July 21st. As you know, the elected members of parliament, the elected members of the state legislative assemblies, and the elected members of the union territories of Delhi, Jammu and Kashmir, and Puducherry are eligible to vote in the president's election. You also would know that the voting value of MLAs and MPs is different when they come and vote for the president's elections. Next, question number 3. Consider the following statements with regard to the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. Number 1. India acquired the observer status in the grouping in 2005 and was admitted as a full member in 2017. Second, the SCO also has 4 observer states, that is Afghanistan, Iran, Belarus and Mongolia, of which Iran and Belarus are now moving towards full membership. Third, the SCO Secretariat has 2 permanent bodies, that is the SCO Secretariat based in Beijing and the Executive Committee of RATS, that is Regional Anti-Terrorist Structure based in Tashkent. Which of these given statements is or are correct with regards to SCO? The correct answer here would be D. All the 4 given statements with regards to SCO are correct. This is a group that has been in the news for a lot of reasons, most specifically because we have seen that Iran and Belarus are now on the verge of becoming full-time members of the SCO. We also discussed that this group recently had a meeting attended by India's Prime Minister as well. This article here in the Hindu newspaper tells us the details about the workings of the SCO, the history of how this group first was launched as Shanghai 5 in 2001, with Russia, China, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, and Kazakhstan coming together. It was only in 2001 that Shanghai 5 inducted Uzbekistan in its fold and renamed it to SCO. The principles were to promote cooperation amongst the member nations in this particular region. The other bodies at work under the SCO include the head of the States Council, heads of the Government Council, and Foreign Ministers Council. Next, question number 4. Consider the following statements with regards to monkeypox. Number 1. Monkeypox is a viral zoonosis or a virus transmitted to humans from animals with symptoms similar to those seen in the past in smallpox patients, although it is clinically less severe. Second, monkeypox virus infections has been detected in squirrels, Gambian poach rats, dormice, and some species of monkeys. Third, the first human case was recorded in 1970 in the Democratic Republic of Congo during a period of intensified effort to eliminate the smallpox. Which of these given statements with regards to monkeypox is or are correct? The correct answer here again would be D, since all the 3 given statements are correct about monkeypox. Although this monkeypox virus has been in the news for some weeks now, but the reason why it is covered now much more extensively is because a couple of cases have been found out of monkeypox in the state of Kerala. And that is why there's a lot of concern about how would we tackle this. As you can see in the Hindu newspaper today, there's a news about the second monkeypox case being discovered in Kerala. After this, the Union Health Ministry has said that we will be screening international passengers for any signs of infection of the monkeypox disease. This confirmed case is in a 31-year-old man who reached Kannur from Dubai via Mangalore on 13th of July. There is also a helpline number that has been released by the Ministry of Health, that is the Disha helpline, so that you can call here if you see any symptoms of monkeypox. Next is a previous year question from 2020. The term West Texas Intermediate, sometimes seen in the news, refers to a grade of crude oil, bullion, rare earth elements, or uranium. It's a pretty easy question to answer. WTI, as you often see in the news, is actually a form of crude oil. As the name suggests, most of it is actually found in the US. It's a specific grade of crude oil, and it is also one of the 3 benchmarks used in oil pricing throughout the world. It is also known as light sweet oil because it contains only 0.24% of sulfur. It has a low density and thus it is also light in weight. The underlying commodity of the New York Mercantile Exchange of Oil Futures contract is considered a high quality oil and it can be easily refined by refineries throughout the world. Next, we have a fact of the day, and today we will be discussing about 3 important terms related to economy, that is yield inversion, soft landing, and reverse currency war. Now let's look at these terms one by one. Let's first start with the concept of yield inversion. Now bonds, as you know, are an instrument through which the governments or corporations also usually raise money from the market. Now for example, the government says give me 10 lakh rupees In return, we will pay you back 11 lakh after 2 years. So this margin between 10 and 11 lakh, that is 1 lakh rupees of interest, can be regarded as something called the bond yield. Now, what is bond yield inversion? Bond yield inversion is a situation under which, for example, the bond which has a tenure of 2 years might pay you higher return as compared to a bond which has a 10-year tenure. This is the concept of bond yield inversion. As you can see in this graph, the red line here, where the bond yield is actually going down as the years are increasing, this is called bond yield inversion. When investors suspect that the economy is heading for trouble, they pull out money from the short-term risky assets and put them in long-term bonds. This causes the prices of the long-term bonds to rise and their yields to fall in the long future. Then we also have a concept of soft landing. Now, soft landing in very simple terms is the process of monetary tightening that the US Federal Reserve is currently using. It involves not just reducing the money supply but also increasing the cost of money in the market. This is mainly done so that the money supply becomes there in the market and inflation comes down. Then we also have the reverse currency war. Now, if you see the international market right now, even euro is becoming very, very weak, and in fact, it has become cheaper than dollar for the first time. Thus, the US dollar has become stronger than all other currencies just because dollar is in more demand as compared to other currencies. Thus, it should make other countries happy because relatively weaker currencies against the dollar makes their exports much more competitive. In fact, the US government has often said that other countries manipulate their currency and keep it weak against the dollar. Now that it has already happened, that is why this is now leading to a currency war. Central banks across the world are now trying to figure out ways to counter the US Federal Reserve and raise the interest rate themselves to ensure that their currency does not lose too much value against the dollar or it will harm their economy in the long run. These are the important terms which are in the news with respect to Indian economy these days. Thank you so much for watching the daily quiz video.